Zakaria Jayat from Morocco and Germany.
My name is Renita Gatesi and I'm from Rwanda.
Hi, I'm Svenja Schalken from Germany.
Hi, my name is Paulina Ajay from Ghana.
I'm Bartosz Walenda from Germany.
Hi, I'm Anne-Sophie Wante from Germany.
My name is Isabella Ucheneza from Rwanda.
My name is Jeff Kraten-Jakobsen. I'm from Germany. And we are team CredEase. So we are wondering, why are we here at Agile? What is it, what we are looking for here at Agile? Oswald, what are you looking for?
I'm here to network and also looking for funding for my business.
Fatma, what are you looking for?
Yeah, of course, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Funding is super important and also educational opportunities.
Interesting. Okay. And guess what? We are not the only ones. So let us share some light on it.
Right, so there's a huge mismatch between investors and the businesses that require the funding. They don't find the ways together today. And there's actually 90% of businesses in the world that are just like us, MSMEs. Small businesses that require funding. 44 million of those are in Africa. And they provide 80% of all employment in Africa. So there's a funding gap of $526 billion for African MSMEs. We created a fix to this broken system. Next slide. It's CredEase. We built a digital financing platform that provides free and low interest rates, 1 to 6 months grace period, with a quick payout time of up to 1 month, funding options to African MSMEs based on a very innovative alternative credit scoring mechanism that takes into account business goals.
If we dig deeper into the reason why it's hard for SMEs to reach financing from the perspective of the investor, it's difficult to trust. So credibility and trust is a factor. And what we are proposing is that what if we had a credit scoring system that sort of gives the credibility of the SME to convince the funder in order to unlock the funding needed. So this is how it works. It begins with a digital online application where the SMEs goes online to complete a form. Now, data from that form is triangulated with external data from a credit reference bureau. This is where we complement personal information with business information to sort of have an idea of where the SME is at. And that takes us to a credit score. So depending on what information or where you are at, it could be a red, a yellow, or a green. And that gives us an idea of the credibility of the SME. Now, based on the outcome, we now know how to provide the right coaching support to the SME. Now, the hook here is that in most cases, SMEs apply, and it's either a yes or they don't hear back from the funders at all. What we are proposing here is that depending on the score, the needed support is provided for the SME to move on to the next stage. And this is where the funding is unlocked. Again, funding could be debt or equity depending on the needs of the startup. And as the funding is released, now the startup or the SME is able to use the funds and reporting and updating of the data. So it's first time getting the credit score and another time using the information or using the funding to also build another score. So by the end of a cycle, we have a fair idea of the credibility of the SME before and after and continues the cycle. Now let's look at the benefits of all of this to the SME.
Now, we often find that SMEs are evaluated on traditional metrics, bank metrics, that are not necessarily favorable to them. So our metric or a data server of some sort collects the data using metrics that are viable for SMEs, that use financial, social, and operational metrics in order for us to actually get the real scope of what these SMEs have to offer. Most of them are also part of the informal sector. So you cannot measure your metrics for corporations as well with an SME. So the benefits are, one, you get a credit score that actually looks at the metrics that apply to you as an SME. You get flexible financing options. So depending on what stage you're at, it's either debt financing or equity financing. And you also get an educational approach. If you're not eligible for funding through the data that we've collected, we provide you an action plan. Where do you go from this so that you can actually get funding? So yeah.
So let me briefly take you to the workflow. So depending on the information you are putting in as an entrepreneur, as a business that needs funding, we create this alternative score. So you might want to dig into our questionnaire later and just provide where you want to go with your business, what your funding needs are, what stage you're at, what interests you, what industry you're working in, and just give us, a more complete picture than you would give to a bank. This should be all very interactive and interesting for you as well. You can link up customer reviews. You can link up any social data. You can also provide kind of what your story is. And then we will triangulate that with credit history data to verify kind of what a credit history is already there in any other banking institutions. And then depending on the score, let's say you reach 100, somewhere from 66 to 100, you actually get funding options from us. So it could be a grant, it could be debt or venture debt, it could be equity, it could be working capital loans, and you're free to roll. If you're not yet there yet, because your score is somewhere between 33 and 66, we're not going to kick you out and say, as it's being done so far, and be like, okay, look somewhere else. We're going to give you options. We're going to give you an action plan where you can provide more info, and we'll provide more info as well. So it's a two-way street in the end, where you basically see, how can I boost my revenue? How can I tack up my valuation to a point where I'll be interesting enough for anyone to fund me? How can I build more trust around my business? And you'll be able to reapply, actually. So we want to go all the way with you. We want to be an app and a provider that will be guiding businesses towards bankability, towards business growth. And if your score is very low, we're going to do the same. We're going to tell you not there yet at the moment, but there's so many ways from now until in a year or a defined point in time where you can just boost your revenue and become interesting for any sort of financing. So that's as for the mechanics. And we ran the numbers very quickly. And this is something I think which is interesting to the jury at this point, because we're a venture ourselves as well with a customer or with a user group, which is SMEs and entrepreneurs. But to kickstart this, and I'm looking to BMZ at this point, we're very interested in receiving funding as well. So we ran the numbers with a grant of 1 million euros. We kind of deducted the expenses of personal app and platform development marketing, which brings us to 180K in the first year. And which leaves all expenses deducted over 3 years, around 60% for funding for SMEs. So we'd have roughly 600K to go towards SMEs with loans, with grants. That's something to be defined later. So I think in terms of operational expenses, it's interesting. But what is more interesting, we want to be socially inclusive. We want to give an extra layer to the weighting, to the credit score, and favor women-led businesses, women entrepreneurs, and we want to favor SMEs which have a climate-related cause. So we might be able to subsidize also their interest rate and make it more interesting. But we also want to make this economically viable, which means from year 2 on, this platform should also generate inflows coming from interest rates, coming from subscription, coming from fees. So we want this to be, a sustainable platform also, which will also leave the money in the ecosystem, because Africa also has, and African economies have the problem of capital flight. Investors coming there, putting in the money, extracting rents, extracting returns, and we want to leave the money in the system. So that's as far as the numbers go. We'll be happy to dig in deeper later. And now we're going to show you a quick wrap-up, a quick video just of the customer journey that you could experience if you want to access financing as a business.
Right, with that in mind, we would like to thank you very much for your attention. Get out your phones, check out our questionnaire landing page, and make your business grow today.